Hey, what is going on, everybody? Today I want to talk to you all about the Astonishing X-Men, and this probably comes to no surprise since this has been the talk of the town, and I've even talked at some length regarding this team in live streams and past videos, but I think we really need to address the elephant in the regarding this team. We found out over the last few days in an in-game message that Bishop is also going to be a Blitz character for this team, which brings this total up to 4 out of the 5 characters. And frankly, I think enough is enough. So I really want to dive deep into what we're being promised with this team and why we should really take this with a massive grain of salt, as some of us are probably likely to unlock Jubilee, myself included, especially with Yellow Jacket, Ghost, and Stature being made farmable at least 3 weeks before the event. So hold on to your diapers, babies, because we're going in. Alright, so first off I want to go over the Astonishing X-Men roster. Obviously we're missing Bishop and Jubilee here, who are likely to show up next week, since I think the patch is looking likely to be on Tuesday or Wednesday, but I want to go over what we have right now, and I do have the blog post from last Friday up at the same time, so we can look over the rest of the kit later. Right off the bat though, I want to say that I'm highly disappointed with, I'm pretty sure, this being the only team that has 4 out of 5 characters being Blitz releases. Please correct me if I'm wrong down below, but I don't recall this being the case for any other team to date. Even the Black Order had Thanos, which was released prior. Proxima was a campaign event for the Asgardians. They had 2 other characters with Thor and Loki, and then Heimdall was made the campaign event. Inhumans had a campaign event, and other prior released characters. So, there's a lot of characters that had already been pre-released on other teams, and we could say that for Beast. Beast was a prior released character, but he was also a Blitz, so he still isn't farmable. And as you can see, I think I got really lucky in my orb drops actually, but I'm still not even at 5-star yet. And by the way, that 5 red star that we got on the Showtime currency event in December, or for Christmas around then, it really made me wonder why we got that. So Beast better be around the corner in terms of farmability, because I don't know why they offered us a 5 red Beast in that in those milestones for us to not even be able to farm him and get him up to that point. So either way, I guess he's sitting there. And since, like I said, since we're here in the roster page, I want to show you the guys of the status of my Astonishing X-Men so far. So I actually never bought the offers for Beast or Kitty, although I think I've got some lucky orb pulls, like I said, for Beast. But it's just, admittedly, I did buy the Iceman offer, but this was only because of a generous donation to the channel. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it, and I just would have gone it completely free to play through Blitz, which I do plan to do on top. And this might actually be the only character, perhaps outside of Beast, that I might be able to get to 5-star otherwise. I'm sitting here where I am with Kitty. This is after the first Blitz and after the 21 shards from the milestone on the second Blitz, which is ongoing right now, which I'm working away on. But this is, this is kind of what I want to talk about as well. So for that, we're gonna have to jump over to the Blitz screen and take a look at exactly what I'm talking about. Alright, so particularly what I want to look at here is looking at the rewards for the Blitzes, and this is the same for all new character Blitzes. You can see that realistically the most you're ever going to get for a Blitz character is 100 shards each time. Now, this is not including the 21 that you get from the milestones, so you can conceivably pick up a total of 121 shards per Blitz, but this is really if you're only in the top 3,500 or so of Blitz players, which I believe gets you in the running for top 1%. Multiply this by 2 Blitzes, hypothetically, and that's 242 shards, which is roughly 70 shy of a 5-star character. Now, I mean, for these top 3,500 people or so, this is pretty decent for being free to play if you can manage to do this, but, some of these people are not, and there are a handful of people who are free to play in that bracket. I wouldn't say myself, but I am able to reach the top 1% if I try and push really hard. But more and more, the requirements for newer, higher level content is so demanding that a 4-star character just really won't cut it anymore. And I would say increasingly so, unless they are a character like Minerva, maybe Ghost, but her survivability kind of gets pulled into question, or like Ebony Maw, who I realize is a legendary character, but realistically there's only a handful of endgame characters who can get away with lower star values and still be useful. So let's take a look as, if you're someone who's in maybe the top 25% here, and then you'll barely be getting a minimum of 92 shards. So let's say you cut, 11 to 25% times 2, That's 50 shards there for 2 blitzes, plus 42 from the milestone. That's 92 shards over both blitzes. That's not even a 3-star character. You're just barely cutting into 3-star. You know, maybe if you get lucky with an ore pull later down the line, you'll get that 3-star. You know, if you're able to score 45 shards for one of the blitzes, you know, if you push really, really hard, you know, you'll get just barely into 3-star. So realistically, you know, the best you can ever hope to achieve for new characters going forward from Blitz is around the 3-star level. You know, if you are someone who does score in the top 1%, I think even if you do this one time and you do 55 shards the other, you'll get 4-star, you know, but realistically for a lot of players, you're going to be in the 3-star level. So now this is why most people dislike Blitz releases the most, since you're not going to get as many shards as you might through a campaign event where 4-star is much easier to obtain. And even through a milestone release such as Anti-Venom or Red Guardian, where 4-star might be tough, but it is doable with a bit of luck, and if you have some power cores saved, you can maybe open a couple of orbs. And then of course there's the Emma Frost or Symbiote Spider-Man style release, where over a longer period of time, you know, you can get 4, 5, or 6 stars with some gold savings, and that's entirely possible to do. So let's go back over to the roster again now, and we've talked about this with regards to the Astonishing X-Men as a whole, and talk about their kits and what this really means at the 3 to 4-star level. So I want to quickly go over each of their kits and why this is an issue at low star levels, which is probably self-evident, but just in case, you know, we can really see why these characters aren't going to be great for investment upon release, in my opinion anyways, unless you're someone who spends money and or is in the top 1% of players who can reasonably get them close to 5-star. You know, if you do a little bit of spending and you blitz really hard to get to that 5-star level, alongside the equivalent red stars, of course, because let's be real, you know, you need a bare minimum, I would say, of 4 yellow, 4 red to do anything decent in higher level new content, with realistically probably 5 yellow, 5 red being closer to the norm as to what you would need. You know, my Ghost, for example, is 5 yellow, 5 red in Dark Dimension 4, and even then her survivability sometimes is a bit, you know, tough. So that's kind of the level that you're going to need to expect when you're looking at things like Doom Raid and, you know, these other modes where you're fighting against a 100k plus powered enemies, and you're really going to need, you know, at least 5 yellow for that. So let's start off with Iceman here first. So in terms of his kit, you know, like, he actually is pretty decent. Gain 1000% focus on his basic attack, so that's not a problem. So this is probably gonna not matter too much based on his stats, but where it does pull into question, and from the gameplay that I've done with them so far, is actually from his special here. I've had a really hard time landing this apply stun part when the target has slow. Almost always I've found this resisted. Granted, I am at the 3-star level, might be able to get him up to 4-star after the blitzes, or I probably will get him to 4-star, but you know, the fact that these are having problems on even balanced, you know, I've done some balanced PvP where this is a bit of an issue as well. So frankly, I'm a bit disappointed in that. Ice Slide, you know what, I've actually had some troubles landing this slow on this as well. I used him in Ultimus 7.3 a little bit, trying to test him out with Emma Frost, and I actually had his ultimate fail to apply the slow. So that's really disappointing to hear that. And even at Ultimate, we're not even there at Doom Raid yet. Now granted, he is only tier 12, but realistically, do I want to invest in a character, you know, up to tier 14 and above? Because really, that's where you're going to have to take them if you're going to want to use them in Doom Raid, if I can't do a lot of things I want to do, you know, at the star level they're at. And you see that I only have 4 red anyways, so realistically, am I going to be able to get a lot of use out of this character? I think Iceman actually has a little bit more in his kit than the other Astonishing X-Men, so maybe that's a bad example. But, you know, the other characters are not so nice. So, Absolute Zero here, you know, this is really nice actually with the reduction of damage, if you can manage to slow them, of course, you know, up to 30% damage in raids. Now, that's great too. But, you know, you're going to need to be able to slow them. So if you don't have someone like Emma Frost who can probably land it more reliably than Iceman might be able to, then you're going to be in a bit of some trouble. But let's talk about some of the other characters and what they have and what they don't. So Beast, again, Beast is a really weird one. So for him, he's supposed to be the support healer of the team, but frankly, he doesn't do that very well. So let's start actually with the basic anyways, because we're here. So he does some flipping, that's fine, you know, and he actually doesn't suffer from focus problems as much as some of the other characters here. But Volatile Experiment, clear 1 to 2 negative effects from self, not from the team. So why does he not clear negative effects from the team? You know, he only clears it from himself. Heals the 2 most injured allies for 20%. Now granted, this is a fair bit of health, but why is this not to everyone? So I don't understand, and I think that they're going to really struggle when it comes to, you know, fighting off really powerful enemies, people who AoE, people with unavoidable attacks, things like that. because their healing potential really isn't that high. Granted, it is on a cooldown of 3, but the 2 most injured allies for 20%, really this should have been everyone, and they should have some way, at least clear 1 negative effect from the entire team, have some sort of text that includes the Astonishing X-Men. Really don't know why they don't have that for Beast, unless he's going to get looked at again, but I highly doubt it, so I'm kind of pulling this team's survivability into question a little bit, on top of the fact that you're going to be having low star levels for them, including yellow and you know, maybe red if you get really unlucky. So the Mutant Enhancement, this doesn't really matter here, it's just a buffing ability, so that's not really a big deal. And Stars and Garter, you know, that applies regeneration to the most injured ally, sorry, and if that ally is an Astonishing X-Men, heal it again for 20%. So, you know, this isn't too bad, but all in all, I still think that Beast is kind of lacking in the healing department for a support-based character. His healing is nowhere near on the level of some of the other healers for their teams. You know, not that there's really a whole ton of healers in the game, really, realistically, but I just think that he's lacking a bit. And where that's supposed to come up again is Kitty Pryde, because she actually helps heal a little bit with her passive. So I think you need this down here. So in raids, on enemy turn, no, actually, no, where is it? If Jubilee is an ally, sorry. So you have to have Jubilee for this to work. You know, on enemy miss or Astonishing X-Men dodge, heal the most injured Astonishing X-Men ally for 5%. This goes up to 10% with the T4s, but this is only with Jubilee. Granted, you're probably not going to run this team too much if you don't have Jubilee, but the point remains is that I don't really think that, you know, the kits together and the sort of lack of team healing, in my opinion, overall, is really going to allow them to survive against really big, tough enemies that are probably going to blow them out of the water when you're only sitting at 3 or 4 stars. You know, even in Ultimates raids, I think this is a bit questionable at best. Not to mention that in raids, you know, they tend to kind of stack up characters with heal blocks. So Mordo, which is an unavoidable AoE that has 2 turns of heal block. Venom, which allows for some spreading of that and attacks multiple characters. Hand Assassin, you know, who has a single target heal block. And I'm sure there's a few others I'm missing out, but those are the main ones because, you know, Scope League loves to throw out Mordos in raids. So, you know, if they're heal blocked at all, they have no way of cleansing their own debuffs, and that becomes a huge problem, especially for a team that has to rely on, you know, these kind of evade healing, dodge healing, and Beast really to heal up the rest of the team, and it's not really all that much. Now granted, I do like their kits, I do like the Astonishing X-Men's kit, but I think that they're missing something, and the fact that the 4 out of 5 of them are Blitz characters really brings into question how high you're going to be able to bring them up and whether or not they're going to be worth gearing. And so my answer to that is I don't think that early and mid-game players should really be taking too much stock into this team. I think that you are probably better off using other characters even for Doom Raid when it does come out, which is supposedly in February as well. You know, I don't think that 3 to 4 star characters from the Astonishing X-Men really are going to cut it. You're going to need tier 13, tier 14 plus really to survive. And frankly, you know, let's look at the mutant list already that exists. I don't think that, you know, you're going to necessarily need to use them, or you can use a combination of such. So this is the rest of the mutant roster if we want to take a look at it in terms of Doom Raid, which has mutant specific nodes. So we have Mr. Sinister, we have Emma Frost. Ignore my G15 Sabretooth, that's for Dark Dimension, but you know, you get the point here. So Mr. Sinister and Emma Frost really serves as a good backbone to a mutant-based team. You could add in Strife if you're someone who has geared them up already. That's tier 14. For me, that would be 3. You know, hypothetically, you could also use Phoenix. There's nothing stopping you. You could use characters like Magneto, who is also a mutant villain. You know, there are other characters available that you can get through these nodes that you probably need to do for Doom Raid. And you could, if you really want to, you know, you could add in characters like Kitty and Iceman just on them by themselves, or Iceman and Jubilee, you know, something like that, alongside Mr. Sinister, Emma Frost, and Strife, who a lot of people already have up to the tier 13, 14 plus level because of Dark Dimension and how good of characters they really are. So realistically, I don't think, unless you're a whale or someone who can really get to 5-star plus on these Astonishing X-Men characters, I don't really think they're all that worth, you know, considering at this point in time. Maybe in about 6 months plus, because realistically that's how long it takes for characters to become farmable. You know, maybe this might be a consideration on Jubilee's 3rd pass. You know, at that point, hopefully the whole team is farmable then. The other thing I want to talk about is, you know what, maybe this is leading up to us getting a legendary within a legendary. So you know, with 4 out of 5 Blitz characters, that is the definition of shard struggle in terms of the characters that we're going to need for a legendary event. You know, usually there's at least 2 or 3 for a legendary event that are Blitzes, but in this case, with 4 and a legendary, I could see this being plausible for the next legendary event needing Astonishing X-Men up to the 5-star level, which a lot of people won't be able to do or won't have outside of maybe Beast when they make him farmable, and maybe that'll be the unlock requirements for the next legendary, whoever that happens to be. You know, it's probably not going to be another mutant, but you know, fingers crossed it might be Apocalypse. I highly doubt they'll do 2 mutants in a row. Either way, you know, maybe that might be a reason that you might want to try hard for the shards to get as many as you possibly can for this team. But do I recommend you actually bringing them up? Not really. You know, I'm bringing them up to tier 12, then that's as far as I'm willing to do right now, mostly because of the star requirements, you know, because I don't think that I'm going to be able to get a whole lot out of them. Iceman might realistically be the only one I think that, you know, might survive well enough at the sort of 4-star level or 5-star, wherever I happen to get them at. But Kitty Pryde, Beast, Bishop, who by the way is also, like I said, is also a Blitz, and let's talk about Bishop and Jubilee a little bit here now that we have the kits here. You know, they have some pretty decent kits. You know, Jubilee is actually pretty decent. I'm really disappointed though that, you know, she doesn't have, her or Bishop for that matter, has any focus on their passive, which I think Iceman desperately needs, and maybe some of the other characters as well, because if you're running them at lower star levels, that's something you're going to want to consider. But yeah, they're actually not too bad. I don't think that Jubilee is going to be like an A rank or S rank legendary. I think, you know, I would probably place her, and this is just a ballpark figure, that I would probably place her just below where I put Doc Ock in my tier list. So I don't know. I don't think she has a whole ton of wider usability, but you might find a way to use her in the raids, especially with her ultimate applying offense down for 2 turns. You know, there might be some viability here, either in the Doom raid or other places in Ultimates that you might be able to make use of her. And let's talk about Bishop a little bit here while we're at it. And so, you know, really he's just damage, but he does have this nice sort of like Drax-esque taunt here on the passive, so on spawn gain taunt plus defense up. You know, I really like this kind of stuff. I think he's got a really solid, interesting kit, but you know, again, if he's doing this off-tank kind of function, realistically at the 3-star level, 4-star maximum, you know, is he going to be good enough to be able to survive long enough in these higher end raids? And I think, frankly, the answer is probably no. But, you know, it's really entirely up to you guys what you guys want to level and do with your resources, but I don't think it's really going to be all that great to want to invest a ton of resources into this team, you know, knowing that they're not going to be better than some of the existing teams that are already out there. And what do we already have right now? You know, we have teams such as, you know, the top of my roster, for example, so Symbiote Spider-Man, we got the Symbiotes team, you know, they're really solid raid team. Now, frankly, what I meant to say is that for Doom Raid, obviously you cannot use them, you know, but like I said, there are other options with Mr. Sinister and other mutant variants out there. But in terms of Ultimates and other raids, you know, I think symbiotes are more than strong enough to do all the content that already exists in the game. So they're trying to sell us this Astonishing X-Men raid team for characters that you're realistically only going to be getting 2 to 4 stars for. So whether or not that's worth the investment for you, you know, that's maybe a decision that you have to make, but for me, I personally don't think it is, and I wouldn't recommend other people to do the same either. You know, maybe I'm missing something, and maybe we're going to find out more about that. And you know what, maybe if they are a legendary within a legendary, that we might see them become farmable quicker than other characters who we're still waiting on. You know, Beast we're still waiting on, and Baron Zemo, if that even happens, and then after that, you know, we should be getting the symbiotes, because then we're coming up on Scream and Anti-Venom in that patch in terms of farmability. You know, and so if that becomes the case, then that kind of pushes all the more reason that, at least for Ultimates and non-Doom Raid, that you should be considering symbiotes anyways, because, you know, Scream and Anti-Venom, once they become farmable, and then Venom and Carnage are already farmable, you know, they're a really, really, really solid team. So basically, I just want to say that I'm really disappointed in the Astonishing X-Men team, and, you know, whether or not you guys want to build it, it's entirely up to you. Maybe they might be a legendary within a legendary, you know, I'm not going to say one way or the other because I don't know, but I think there is a good possibility of that happening. And, you know, X Factor, that might be another team that you want to put your resources into, because it's highly possible they might become viable sooner than the Astonishing X-Men. And Shatterstar and Longshot are really good characters, but that's a discussion for another video. And so that's the end of my sort of rant here about the Astonishing X-Men, but I really hope I'm wrong. It's just that I can't really put stock into a lot of characters that you're only going to be getting at the 3 to 4 star level. Realistically, at the kind of content that we're doing now with Dark Dimension 3, Dark Dimension 4, Ultimate 7, you know, anywhere up to 7.5, and even this new Doom Raid, I don't know if they're going to cut it. And that's just what I think about them. So, you know, thanks everyone for watching, of course, and until next time, stay safe, and I'll see y'all later. WHALES signing out.